Right now, we're in for a treat because following the tea time treats, it's Richard Wyatt-Haines. Richard is a great friend and supporter of the Institute and has been for many years. He is the director of HCI, and Richard is going to, well, he's going to be provocational, I think. He may even ask you to think for yourself.
I will.
There may be interactive activity taking place here, so stand by your beds. Richard's going to be talking about how do we ask leaders to take a broader perspective on the challenges that face their people and enable them to better understand and appreciate organisational behavioural challenges to arrive at better solutions. This is good stuff. Richard, away you go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to talk to you this afternoon and give me some of your time. I'm really grateful for that. As John said, I'm going to just ask you to think and reflect on some of the issues you're facing. So this will be interactive, but not necessarily across the whole room, because that's tricky with nigh on 50 odd people or whatever. But I hope what you'll get out of the session this afternoon is a really, really simple tool that you can use over and over and over again for all the myriad of issues and challenges you face day in, day out. It will just give you a way of thinking about some of those problems that I hope will just make life easier for you, bring you some insights that you just go, oh, that's interesting. That's how I can deal with this. So that's what I'm going to try and do this afternoon. And what it will involve is you just doing some thinking about a challenge that you face. And you will need, just so you know, just while I'm prattling here at the moment, you'll need a blank piece of paper and a pen or a pencil. All right. You will need one to get the most out of the session. All right. And that's all you need. One piece of paper, one pen or pencil, nothing more than that. And your good brain and a good open mind. Okay. I didn't know what to call this thing, but I'm going to just say, take a wider perspective. It's just about trying to look at challenges through slightly different lens or a multiple of lens. I'm Richard Wyatt-Haines, a director of HCI. Our main work is really about, we've produced the National Video Library that was used during the lockdown that helped with remote care. And we have a tool called Connect Plus, which is an app that supports patients with multiple conditions better self-manage at home, and as a result seeks to reduce the demand on the health system. That's my day job, but today has got nothing to do with my day job at all. I'm pleased to say I'm having a day off from it because I'm here with you, and I'm going to look at another issue of things that interest me and strike me, and it's this whole issue of us facing really difficult challenges day in, day out in the workplace. And superficially, initially, they manifest themselves with something going wrong at the bedside, something going wrong in a ward, something going wrong in a management meeting, something going wrong with a plan that's not going to plan, something going wrong because you're trying to change something and yet that change isn't happening in the way you would like. And you look at it and you go, my God, what's happening there? Why is that not happening? It could be something simple, like somebody not performing in the way that you had hoped. And you look at it and you think, well, what's going wrong here? Why isn't it working? And sometimes the solutions are really, really obvious. And you can go, yeah, I know that. Sometimes, though, you look at them and you go, oh, it looks obvious, but when you stop and think about it, maybe it's not quite as simple as you thought. And there are other issues at play that you need to consider. And sometimes you can't find a solution at all. I'm really dealing with those latter two things, where you look at it, you reach a conclusion, but actually maybe that's not the right conclusion because you haven't thought through all the issues, or you really are struggling to find a solution to the challenge that's facing you. And those are the ones I want to look at, not the really easy stuff. And what I'm going to try and do, as I say, is provide you with a really simple tool to enable you to think about that. Okay. And what I need you to do, if I may ask, on your bit of paper, as a first task, if you would, on your bit of paper, is just draw that matrix. So put it into landscape and draw that little box with big box with 4 boxes in between, as it were, or 4 layers in it, like a cake off the bake-off. Although we seem to do less and less in the way of cakes in the bake-off these days. I've noticed it seems to be more a construction program, less a baking program, which is a shame, because I haven't seen a cake with a ganache on it this time, I don't think. And I do like a cake with a good ganache. So anyway, I've got a layered cake here. Could you, on your paper, just draw that out for me, so you're ready to go? So, and when you've done that, I want you just at the top, maybe at the top of the page somewhere, or somewhere, just stop and make a note of a problem, a challenge that you're facing. Okay, that's something that is really quite gnarly, quite difficult for you to address. And it could be anything, but there will be people involved in it in some way or the other. Okay, there will be, there's always people involved. Maybe you've got something happening there. People are always late on a ward round, or people are not doing a task repeatedly that you want done across the home, the care area you're looking after. I don't know what it is, and I don't need to know, and this is for you to hold on to, but something that's a bit tricky, gnarly, that you've been wrestling with and you haven't got to the bottom of. And I want you just to, as I say, identify what that is, and just take a minute or so, if I can, and I'll give you a minute. We'll just say, okay, what is that challenge? So if you could just do that for me, that'd be really good. So I'm going to go a minute silence just while you do that, if that's okay. Now then, if that's okay, if we've identified something, everybody, I hope that gives you something just to work with during our session together. Now, John will tell you the hardest thing for me is silence, because I like talking, as does John. The two of us abhor a vacuum. We're not very good at it, and both of us will jump in every time. So I'm going to find this session hard, because at points there will be silences while you think and just reflect. But hey, that's the way the session's going to go, and I'm going to have to be brave. So I will find it tricky, but I'm sure we can manage it. So what I want you to do is we're going to populate the lowest level of your box there that had an I next to it. And what I want you to do is think about, before we do anything else, solely and entirely, think about the individuals that are involved in the problem you're facing. It may be one person underperforming, or it might be a number of people, but the individuals, and try and sort of focus in on 1, 2, or 3, no more than that. It'd be too difficult otherwise for the purposes of this. And just ask yourself some questions like, who are they? What do they believe? What are their capabilities and skills that are impacting on the problem and creating the problem? So look at them as an individual and say, what's their influence? How are they making the problem occur? And the sorts of questions you just want to ask yourself, and make a note for yourself while you're doing that over like a 3-minute block I'm going to give us for this one, is things like, who are they? Who are they as a person? What's their character? What's their character, their behavioural traits? What do they believe in? What's important to them? That might be religion, it might be politics, it might be about relationships, and things like, and I'll go around these again, but things like, what motivates them, and why are they motivated by those things? Think about as well their role, what their job is, what is written down on their job description, and actually the role they actually fulfill. And do they understand that role? Do they know what it is? Are they capable of doing it? And then lastly, who do they report to, and what's the relationship like between them and their line manager? So who are they? Sort of characteristics, behavioral traits. What do they believe? And you just want 3, maybe 4 things that stand out to you is all you're looking for. All I've tried to do is just give you some clues there. So 3 or 4 things about the individual that are relevant to the problem that you're facing, the challenge you're facing, the problem that you're trying to address. And as I say, I'm going to give you another sort of couple of minutes just to write down some notes. Okay, thank you. I hope that wasn't too difficult, and I'm just trying to keep this simple. I'm just trying to get us to think about the problem we're facing now. So now I want to move up to the next layer, and on this layer, we're going to think about the groups in which the individuals exist and operate. Think about the teams they're in. Think about and it's really easy when we think about people in groups to say, there's Joanne over there, and she's in the admin team. She's in the purchasing department. She's in the payment department. But what I want you to think about is not just where they are in the formal hierarchy of the organization, but I also want you to think about their informal groups. Who do they go drinking with on a Friday evening or go out on a Saturday? Who might they meet for coffee at lunchtime? Who might they meet with in the staff room? So groups for me are both formal and informal, and each of them will influence the formal groups, and the informal groups will influence the way in which the individuals where the problems manifest themselves view the world. So just first of all, you want to just, again, you'll have 3 or 4, maybe 5 points in this box after we've finished. And I want you just to think about, well, what groups do these individuals belong to? Is it, the nurses on cancer ward, or is it the team of footballers that play on a Wednesday evening 5-a-side football? But what groups do they belong to? And in those groups, who are their peers? You won't be able to do everything here because we've only got half an hour together, but we can get some ideas going. Who are their peers in that group? Who are the people sort of influencing them, and how do they influence them, and in what way? Just start thinking about things like that. And now, is there something in there you suddenly go, oh, that's interesting. I'd not really thought about that. Peer pressure in a way that might be changing someone's perspective and maybe blocking them from thinking about making a change or adopting a new tool or adopting digital. And in those groups, what are they trying to achieve, both formal and informal? What's their purpose? And how well aligned do you think those groups are to what the organization is trying to do? So are they quite militant, or are they really well aligned? What's going on? What's the influences, and what are the group norms in there that may be influencing our individuals that we're worried about? Are there group norms that are forcing them to behave in a way that isn't congruent, that isn't what we need? And is there a leader in these groups that is having influence, both formal and informal again? So in other words, is the supervisor or the manager in a formal group, or is there a sort of a leader that's coming to the fore by way of reference power? What's their style? How do they exercise power? And the formal group in particular here is quite challenging. So what group are they in? What influences are bearing down on them, both formal and informal? Just mull that down and end up, again, as I say, you'll end up with 3 or 4, maybe 5 points that just are starting to influence your thinking now. That's all right. We've got another minute or so just to get some notes down. And we're going to have to keep moving because of time. And all I'm trying to do is just give you a toolkit you can use long term. Okay, I'm going to keep us moving. And I'm going to move to the next layer, which is O on our cake, which is about the organization itself. So it might be a company, or it might be a business, it might be a partnership, it might be a hospital trust, it might be a care home, it might be a domiciliary support organization. It really doesn't matter. But what you want to just think about now is the organization, and think about the influence that the organization and how it operates and how it runs is impacting on the problem, the challenge you're facing. And what we're just trying to do is understand what some of those issues might be that might be impacting on our problem that we're trying to solve. So on this time, I want you to think about what is the purpose of the organization. And you can write it down, what's on some document somewhere that's meant to be your mission and vision statement. No, what's the real purpose of the organization? What's it really trying to do? I mean, how it lives its life, what's it trying to do, not what it says it's trying to do, which most of the time you could ignore, just a cynic in me. But and is that clear to everyone, what it's really trying to do? Do people understand that? Are they committed to it across the organization? Or is it actually quite fragmented, dysfunctional in some ways, with people not committed to what the organization is about? And you want to start thinking about, well, if they're not, why not? And if they are, why? What's made that happen? So first of all, start with the purpose and its clarity and and the commitment to it across the organization. And then think about things like the culture. And like I say, I'm doing this quickly, and I'm going to give you a slide deck afterwards with notes on. But what's the culture of the organization? And thinking about that, you know, there are so many different organizations, and some you can touch the culture and feel it. It's so tangible in different places. I once worked in as a consulting work for Phones for You, and I went up to the head office, and it was like a culture the moment you walked through the door that was so different from any other organization I'd been in. It was untrue. I just couldn't believe it, in the way they thought, the way they behaved, what was on the walls, what was going on. But in your organization where this challenge exists, what's your culture? What's valued? What's important? What do people really value? What do people really measure? And then other things you might want to think about are the organizational structure. You know, is it a simple hierarchy, or have you got a matrix organization operating? Matrix organizations are the hardest to manage in the way of communication. So is that having a bearing on what you're trying to do? Hierarchical is quite good, but it often comes with bureaucracy. Is that having an impact, or is it a less formal organization? What size is it? Might have an impact. And are there sufficient resources provided by the organization for the individuals trying to do the job where we've got the problem? You know, is there enough time, money, people? They're all linked together. Are the different teams in the organization aligned and pointing in the same direction? And what's communication like? You know, so there might be that teams aren't aligned, and that's creating some conflict that might be causing problems in the way that the groups behave, that change the way in which individuals perceive what they're meant to do, but aren't therefore able to deliver what you want them to do. So yeah, is there alignment across the teams, and how effective is communication in the business? And that may have come out when you thought about, is the purpose clear? Do people know what they're meant to deliver? Maybe that would tell you about communication. So now another 3, 4, 5 points that may have just struck you in that reflection. And the final piece, because we have to keep moving, I'm sorry about this. The final piece why we're talking is about S and society. And you want to think about the societal pressures that exist on your organization, and in turn on the groups, and in turn on the individuals who you're worried about that aren't doing what you exactly wanted. So start by thinking about, well, what's the national culture? What are the sort of national expectations and norms in society about how we behave? And you may say, well, I'm not really sure what you mean. Just by contrast, 3 things. So You know what it's like living in the UK. We're here. But how would that be different if you were in a Swedish company in Stockholm today working, and their societal norms and culture? Or if you were in America today, working in actually Texas or Boston, you know, if you were in Houston or Boston, the norms just in that country would be different in the way you operate and perform. But think about the national culture. What are the norms in society? And you want to think equally, if you are working in England for an American company or an Indian company or a Chinese company, how does that affect you in this way? So coming back to national culture, what are societal expectations on how we should behave and what we should be doing as individuals, as organizations, as groups? And what are the changing pressures in the organization and how are they altering? And at the moment, there's a cost of living crisis in our sector. There's, funding challenges. Shall I put it? I'm going to be as polite and apolitical as possible if I can. But we got an environmental challenge as well about the environment and climate change. And all these things are impacting on us. And then we might have system or industry pressures that are unique, massive change going on in different ways that might be impacting on people and the organization right through this problem. And then you want to think about how these issues impact on the people and their decision making and their lives at home and how they live their lives and how those lives have changed, how they've changed if you think about it just from the 1990s to today, how we operate our lives. And that change is bigger than we often recognize, because it changes so marginally every day and so incrementally. But those things change the way people view things and view the world. So societal is your final piece. 4 or 5 things that are going on in the society that may well be impacting on the problem you're addressing, because they're impacting on the individual and the group and the organization itself in the way that it responds to what you're asking them to do, the change they're trying to make, or the performance they're trying to deliver for you. So I'm just going to call a halt. You may not have got loads down, you may not have got everything down, but you will have got a fair bit down. What I'd like you to do is one final thing for me, just as a final reflection, is first of all, identify the first and second layers that are impacting on your problem. So actually having looked at it and started by thinking, well, it's those people in the canteen that are the problem. That's why we're not solving anything. Now you may be going, well, actually, no, the bit that's causing the problem is at the group level or the societal level. And I just want you to identify what's the primary layer where the problem exists, and then what's the secondary layer where the problem exists, or the cause of the problem exists. So you're actually starting to think about, crumbs, that's interesting. So actually, I thought I had a problem with John over there, but what I can now see is that it's at a group level where my big problems lie, and actually us as an organization are a more fundamental driver of the problem. And I just want you to, just in your mind, put maybe a 1 next to the layer that is the primary and a 2 against the organizational. And then having done that, just from all your notes, what are the 3 biggest things that are causing, you think might now be the drivers of the challenge, the problem that you're facing? Just put a ring around the 3 really big things that you think about that are really driving that problem. And I'll just let you have not very long, because we're going to run out of time here. Hopefully you've just got some thoughts and some notes, and it's 5. There you go. It's 5:02. So that gives me 5 minutes to do one thing first, is just show you that there'll be a slide deck coming through from Jade with what I just showed you, or what we've just done together, with some questions for you to think about, some prompts to take away. SOGI is the acronym for Societal, Organisational, Group and Individual. And that slide deck will come across to you, but I'm going to close the slide deck down because I just want to see the group as a whole and just see what's come out really. And so what I was trying to do right at the beginning was give you a toolkit that you could use in any circumstance that involves people, organisational behaviour. But when you look at something, you'll first of all see the individual. And what I want you to do in future is zoom back out and think about the individual in a group, and then think about those groups in the organisation, and then the organisation in the context of society. And I just want you to stop and breathe. And even if you do that really, really quickly at a 30-second level, I want you always to force yourself to back up through SOGI, I, G, O, and S every time. And just make sure you're doing a sense check. But sometimes you'll need to do a much deeper dive, as we've done today, and take a bit longer to think it through. And you might want to do it with others. And what I hope is I've just given you a really simple toolkit that you can just do that with on the hoof, anytime, anywhere. But this will live with you, and you can use it over and over and over again forever more. I've spent my life with SOGI since 1994, and I use it all. That's when I was taught it by a guy called Professor Martin Corbett at Warwick Business School, and it served me so well. It stopped me leaping, stopped me jumping. It's made me think, and I offer it to you as a little gift this afternoon, and I hope you can take it and use it. It's my inheritance track for this afternoon. So hopefully that will be of value to all of you. Any reflections I want, rather than questions first off, we'll take, I got anything that comes up either in chat or somebody puts their hand up. I can't see anything. I can only see John and I at the moment, and Jade in top right, but no worries about that. Is there any reflections anybody wants to put into chat or thoughts as a first? I don't need to hear about your problem, but I do need to hear any reflections. Gosh, all quiet. I've either lost them, John. They're still with me, John. They're still here. But John, anything from your side? Anything? I don't know what you looked at. I don't need to know what you looked at, but
no, listen, I'm all for simplicity. I think if you've got a 4-step thing you can look at to help, I think anybody would want to have a look at it. I'll take any idea for helping me or my organization or my friends and family to kind of resolve problems, issues, challenges. So it's all very welcome. I just, I'll absolutely take it, Richard. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, sir. My pleasure.
Kevin says, interesting, perhaps along with LPEST as an analysis tool too. Kevin, I'm afraid I haven't heard of LPEST.
Yeah, please, Kevin.
Somebody may have done. Kevin, if you'd like to unmute and just tell us a little bit about LPEST, we'd be delighted to have a look at it. Linda says, very helpful structure to distill and identify. Morgan says, have heard of this before, so it's a welcome reminder. I don't use it. Unlucky, Morgan. There we are. Jessica says, great tool, helpful to step back from the problem, see the bigger picture. I think that's a great observation, Jessica. Yeah, thank you very much. And Jade, who's just embarked on a master's course at Arden University, so she's going to use it in her leadership course. That's good. And Morgan does say that she's going to use it now. There you go. Sorry, Kevin says, oh, PEST analysis, PESTLE, etc. Okay, well, has anybody heard of PEST analysis?
Yeah, so that's political, economics, social, technical, legal, and environmental. Useful for, I always find that's really useful for market analysis, but for organizational behavior, you're really looking at individual group interplays, and that's its sort of focus there, Kevin. But different tools for different folks. So, but I hope on organizational behavior, which is a challenge for all of us, often caused by problems at pestle level, hopefully that will add to it for you, Kevin. Thanks, Lindsay.
Lindsay says she's also doing the Leadership Masters. Jade and Lindsay, have you met? You haven't met, so there we are. You see, isn't that quite cool?
Yeah.
A virtual meeting today. They're both on the same course. How about that? That's fantastic. All right. Well, look, I think we're probably done there, Richard. Thank you very much indeed. That's just, everything is helpful. Everything is helpful. We'd be idiots to reject stuff when it's coming at us over the airways, and it's so thoughtful. And we're most grateful to you for giving us some time, Richard, to lay it all out for us.
No troubles at all. Good luck with the rest of the day. Thank you, everyone, and good luck with everything you're doing and wrestling with. Good luck. Cheers.